All right, so I'm going to go ahead and get started. Basically, there is absolutely no real format for this call. I just wanted to set a little bit of time aside because I know there's certain questions that come up a little bit more frequently than others. Kind of give an opportunity to give this core group of people that I appreciate very, very, very much, and all of your help in this project, and kind of giving an update on some of those items that might be outstanding as, where are they? What are we doing? Are you doing anything? And then also, I know one of the topics that I was asked to go over that caused some challenges are incentives. So I did send out the document this morning, and I'll just go over it really quickly, kind of the gist of how the incentives are set up, and then kind of give a quick update on where we're at with some of the key issues that are out there and what they truly are. And if we have time at the end, I would like to touch a little bit on the pricing and how it kind of flows from system to system. And if we don't have time for that one today, then I will definitely put that on for the next one. And then something else is at the end of the call, if anybody has something that they really want to make sure we go over on a future call, just shoot me a quick email because, like I said, I don't have a designated format for this or anything. It's more of just an opportunity to give you a kind of a what's up, what are we doing type thing. So first things first on the incentives. The one thing I wanted to go over is kind of how they're set up in the system. So at the highest level, you've got your communities, and that's where you would basically put any of the incentives that are going to be applicable to the entire community, regardless of what lot. So these are very similar to, let me go into a community, to the ones that used to be in Salesforce. Apparently, I don't get anything on my screen anymore. There we go. So over here on the right-hand side, we have the community incentives. And again, these are the ones that are going to be set up and will be available for anybody to use at the quote level on any quote within that community. They are allowed to go up to the amount that is listed right here or equal to that amount and not above. If they need to go above, it's going to be custom. And is just as before, the effective date and the expiration date will control as well which ones appear. The one thing about this screen, this does not require if you have permissions, which most people on this call probably do, the managers, you are able to set these up. They don't require any kind of pre-approval or getting a approval process from your managers or anything like that. So just very similar to what we used to have in the kind of the Shea admin tool. Then when you get down to the lot level, you actually have the opportunity to enter lot incentives. In the top right corner up here, you'll see the lot incentives. These are ones that if you enter this will be available for any quote, spec quote, or regular quote that is set up using this particular lot. So one of the benefits of these, and this will vary by division, so if your division doesn't follow this policy, please do not say that I told you it was okay. But I know on several of the divisions on the price sheet, for example, you might get something that says for this particular lot, you are pre-approved, you have an additional $20,000 option incentive. So that's where you would want to put the options incentives and things like that. That way, when somebody wants to go ahead and apply that, they don't have to go through the process of getting an approval. And the same goes for you. So if you were to have a pricing sheet that says that it's pre-approved, you can enter it as a lot incentive, and then you do not have to enter it on the spec quote and have it go out as a custom incentive for your manager to approve. So that's where, depending on if you have that pre-approval already on a price sheet. If you don't, and the way that your division handles things is that you will input it in, and, if I'm at SoCal, if Karen is supposed to approve the incentive before I apply it, even if it's on a price sheet, then I would need to do it on the spec quote to go through that approval process or on the regular quote. But to avoid that, you can enter it here. So if I enter a new incentive on this screen, and I will delete this for whoever's community this is. And this was, I believe, in California. I do have in production right now, or in full copy for this to be automatically filled in, because there's no reason that you should have to enter the division or the community, because it already knows which one you're at when you start this process. So now that I've already created that incentive, when I go back to this lot, if I were to go to my spec quote, it's going to be available using the blue incentives box for me to go ahead and select without having to go through any kind of an approval process. So that's kind of the difference between adding them on the quote itself versus adding them as a lot or community incentive. Community reps do not have access to add new incentives at the lot or the community level. So if they need to add something, the only way they can do it, if it is not already listed here for them, is to do the custom button. But as managers, you have the ability to do it the other route in case you've already been pre-approved. Then everything will show in here as a lot incentive and a community incentive. If I come in here and I apply this one and I give it $500 and save it, now that incentive is on the spec quote right here. When anybody creates a regular quote from this day forward, it will automatically be given this $500 of an improved incentive on that regular quote. Now the CRs and you both do have the ability to delete and edit the incentive. So if for some reason this was on the spec quote and it got copied to a regular quote and they said, oh, we don't really want that one, they do have the ability to delete it or edit it. The main purpose of the edit function is, for example, this one, I only gave them $500 of the $1,000. If on the regular quote that person is going to qualify for $800, I can go ahead and change it. And again, the same rule will apply. They cannot go above the $1,000, but it allows them to use more of the incentive if for whatever reason that particular buyer is going to get more than what you gave them in the first place. So are there any questions related to kind of the incentives and how they flow through the system? After this, I'll go over the approvals process, but I don't know if that helps at all. Silent.
I think we were just having some issues on the specs with what we thought was going to be there floating over to the home when it was actually purchased.
So the ones that will copy over will only be, what will be automatically applied is anything that is in this particular box on the spec quote, but it will only be if they create the regular quote after you did this in the spec quote. So that's the one thing to be kind of forewarned about right now, is that if I was to come into this spec quote and add this, it doesn't mean that it's automatically going to go look for every regular quote that exists out there pertaining to this one and add that as well. So if I add it here, then it means that individual on their regular quote is going to have to apply it themselves. That won't automatically be applied unless it was created after you added it on the spec quote. It's basically copying. And if it's something that was done about 3 or 4 weeks ago, I can't guarantee that. Unfortunately, the process of copying from the spec quote to the regular quote was not functioning properly up until probably about 2 weeks ago. So we did have all kinds of, if you were saying it didn't look like it was doing that, it probably wasn't. So that is not anybody being crazy. That is not me lying. That isn't, well, I guess it's unintentionally me lying, telling you that that's what it did and it didn't. But that would, if it was anything, you know, from a few weeks ago, then unfortunately it probably was just a malfunction of the system, not intentionally doing that. But they have since then corrected it so that it should be copying the spec quote for any regular quote that's created after that. I'm going to go ahead and delete this really quick. So something that you may want to, if you haven't already, I don't know if you're aware, if your managers are having a challenge with approving incentives, one of the things that comes up a lot is if you aren't one that's a fan of the emails, or you don't get the emails, maybe they're going to the quarantine box or you just miss them. Right up here in the navigation menu at the very, very bottom is approval request. If they click on that, it will open up a list view. This will show everything that is assigned to that particular person. They have the ability over here on the right to approve, reject, or reassign on this screen. So this is good for several reasons. One, they can go down a long list of them, especially because a lot of times they're already familiar with what you're submitting because you've talked to them about it. If not, if they need more details about it, if you click on the hyperlink for the name of the incentive, it will open up another box that will give you more details in terms of what quote is it applied to and who did it, what was the amount, all the different information, as well as a link to the quote. And again, you can still approve, reject, or reassign from this screen as well. And then you can always go back to your long list of them over here. The one thing that's good as well for, I know while I need to work on something for active lifestyles, for the fact that you may have somebody submitting a sales coordinator, for example, and I have them currently set up where each individual, all of their incentives go to one approver. That works great at all the other divisions. It doesn't work so well for when it's somebody who might have multiple different communities that they're handling and it's a different approver based on the region. They do have the ability to reassign. So if I see that this particular incentive is for a community that is not mine and I want to reassign it, I can click on the reassign button and I can send it to another user and I can put in the comments, you know, Amy hasn't fixed this yet. Please take care of this. So this is an option to reassign things that don't belong to the right person, or you know, if you happen to be out for the day and you don't have a chance to look at it, you could reassign it to somebody else and anybody can go ahead and take a look at it for you. The other option for approval requests that is completely up to the individual, but having the app installed on your phone, it will send you what is like a text message. It's a notification that pops up and says, you know, you have a new incentive for approval or something like that. You can click on that and it will open up into the Salesforce app and they can approve, reject, or reassign from their phone as well. Again, it's not a requirement, but a lot of people prefer that method if they're out and about a lot. One thing that was pointed out to me that I'm working on trying to figure out from the Salesforce team is right now you get a notification when you have one, and then you get another notification when it's approved. And in my opinion, the one that it's approved should go to the CR, not to the person who just approved it, because you know what you just did. So I don't 100% understand why you would get that notification, but I am going to check with Salesforce, find out if there's a setting we need to change so that it goes, you know, the response goes to the person who submitted it as opposed to the person who approved it. But right now that is one of the downfalls, unless somebody else has already figured it out. But if it's something to do on your phone, unfortunately, I'm not the handiest with notifications on your phone. So it may be something as simple as you need to hit a button and change the notification. But I will find out about that one. Is there any other questions right now regarding incentives, approvals? I did want to let you know that I do have figured out the ability for you to have a second approver. So right now it's, you know, you may have, like, I don't know, for example, Vanessa and Dawn at San Diego, that if for some reason Vanessa's not available, Dawn is somebody who can approve them. So I have the ability to assign more than one person right now. So I'm going to find out from everybody who you want to be your second person, if anybody. So you can have approver and then a designated approver, and it just takes one of you to approve it. So it's kind of like what we had in the past where you can have one or more people. You don't have to. You can stick with just one if you'd like. But it does also help when you're on vacation. You can send them off to somebody else as well. All right. So if I don't have anybody speaking up about incentives, then I'm going to go ahead and give you kind of a quick, some of the big items out there that I know are frustrating the heck out of everybody, including myself, that we are working on. One of the big ones I know is the home details and trade COR documents. That is something that unfortunately it's not even related to the documents themselves, but it has to do with what in Salesforce is known as quote lines. I'm sure some of you have seen them. Some of you probably have looked at them more than you'd like to. And what they are is basically, they are these items here that make up this particular quote. So I've used the reference before. It's like a shopping cart. These are your items in here that you get charged for that build up what you're going to buy, almost like a wish list. In these particular quote lines, the very, very difficult part that we have with our process is that every time we generate a change order, we want it to increase in quantity as far as we want it to be the substantial or sequentially in numbers so that it goes from 1 to 2 to 3. Then we have to remember to store that number on every single one of those lines in case we want to regenerate that number. And also, when we're on the spec quote, which is an IOR that we're generating, those may go up to, you may have 10 of those, but then when you transfer it to the regular quote, you want all of those become change order number 1 as pre-selects, and then you start over again from there with everything on the buyer quote being 2. So we have a lot of tracking of numbers, and it can get very, very confusing in the back end. And we have a lot of flags that we have to put on there as far as, is this the last option that was selected or is it not? And so what documents Dan has built require a lot of these flags and numbers to function 100% correctly. And there's a couple of them that are just certain boxes aren't getting checked. So we are able to manually go into these quote lines and do all and adjust them. But unfortunately, that requires an email to Dan or an email to myself to fix it, which is not good for anybody's time. It has been a most critical item for about a week now. As of 2 days ago, they had identified what seems to be the biggest issue, have put in that fix into the sandbox, fortunately, yesterday. So it looks like people will be testing it today. I am very, 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 very hopeful that it will be out sooner than later. But again, once it goes through the rounds of testing, then we have to make sure that whatever's put in place doesn't break something else. So that is one of the big items out there. And the other thing that I know people have seen occasionally is this concept of a blank change order. I just wanted to explain what that kind of is. It's not really a blank change order. What it has to do with is down here on the bottom of every quote, which you won't see because this is a system admin type page, but there is this number. All it is, it's a number that counts up every time somebody generates a change order. For certain users, for some reason, when they generate change order number 5, it goes from 5 to 7. And so it will just go from 5 to 6 and then 6 to 7. So change order number 6 is really your final one. Change order number 7 appears to be blank. So when I am emailed about that, I am literally doing something as simple as coming into the quote and saying, no, it's not really on 7, it's only on 6. As soon as I do that, somebody will come and regenerate number 6, and it will be exactly what they expected. Number 7 is just never should have existed in the first place. So one of the workarounds for this, if somebody's in a pinch, obviously I want to fix it for you. But if they're saying, I'm getting a blank change order, I need to send out the latest one, try the one before it. Because most likely if number 7 is blank, number 6 is the one you really want. And you can proceed with that one. One of the issues that just recently got put into production yesterday was the fact that when you would generate a change order, the deposit that you were entering on the pop-up screen would not pull into the change order. That was due to it missing a status of being received, which we have on all of our other deposits. So we added in that status, and now the document will pull in that deposit onto the first change order so that you do not have to regenerate every single one of them in order to get the deposit on there. Let me think of some of the other. Obviously, the reports are a big one. One of the biggest challenges with reports is basically um, obviously having resources to build them, as well as understanding what fields mean what objects, things like that. Whenever you are crossing over multiple objects with a lot of different pieces of information, oftentimes it becomes a custom report. Almost all of our JF Shea reports, all but about one of them, those were custom in Salesforce previously, and they will be custom again in this Salesforce. We have the sales activity report and the inventory report are both being built as we speak. I have a demo of the sales activity. We did create a version that will work only on Sunday evenings when I run it so that I can double check the numbers for the week. As some of you have already either I've told you or you've discovered on your own, the biggest problem is the fact that we actually need a date range that is specific to a certain field. If you just put in a date range with the week for sales, the week for holds, the week for closings, and the week for cancellations, it will intermingle the two. So if I have something that was a hold in a certain week, it will show that underneath sales because it still meets the qualifications of being a hold. And then other instances are if it was a sale and a close in the same month for something that might have been a quick move-in, it will not show because it will have wiped each other out. So, or it will show too many times depending on how you have your report set up. So again, we are working on a lot of those. We met with, Steve was very gracious to meet with us on Tuesday and go over a lot of activity type reports that we're missing. And kind of discuss what fields we need to do and where we need information better so that we can get the reporting out to you. We've done a lot with the activities so far. I hope to have a pretty good report available at the end of the day. Steve got it made it very, very easy by doing what he did, and then we're just going to combine a few more fields so that the report will function better. And one of the other things we'll be doing is adding the spec pricing information from the spec quote onto the lot because a lot of the inventory reports will not work properly because you can't simply pull pricing off of quotes now that we have spec quotes and regular quotes all for the same lot. You'll get multiple instances for the same lot. And we can go ahead and use the lot, but currently it doesn't have the pricing. So you would just be able to see your available lots, but no pricing on them. That is actually a much easier fix than doing a custom report. So I have that one in line, and I hope to have a pretty solid inventory list that will actually be a list view. So it will have two options. If you're somebody that enjoys list views, and especially at the community levels when they're in them all the time, it will give them a very easy access to a list view. And then for individuals that need, more robust or need to export it, will make basically a very similar inventory report, but we will probably encourage the use of the list view since it's always up to date and easy to get to. And it has the links within it. So other than that, I know there's a bunch of other items out there. We have about 3 or 4 minutes left. Is there something anybody has a quick question on as far as you didn't mention this, where's this at? I know there's a ton of things out there. We have over 190 tickets. So I promise you, if you mention something to me, I have probably opened a ticket for it and I'm going through them as fast as I can, as well as trying to make sure we don't lose any homes. So I do, again, more than anything, appreciate all of your help, all of your patience, and if you have certain things you want me to go over, again, I know pricing is a big one, so I'm going to prepare another document on it that I'll send out, and then also review it next Tuesday. I think it's Tuesday. Anything else that you feel would be super helpful if I just provided a document explaining it and then go over it, just please let me know. Any questions?
Amy, thanks for this invite and these meetings. I think they're very helpful.
Of course. Like I said, I appreciate everybody on this call, so I know everybody's trying to get their hands in and get familiar with it as well, so that you can help on your end, help the end users as well. So anything that I can provide to help you feel more comfortable, that's far more beneficial than me attempting to assist 600 people. So I owe you guys a lot more, and I'm going to do my best to keep these going and get you documents as I can. So again, just if there's certain processes that are completely unclear, please let me know. And that's going to be, I do have, fortunately, the number of emails and user issues has declined tremendously. So it's no longer just, me being 4 or 5 days behind in emails and trying to play catch up. So I do want to try to get in front of it at least while I can and try to get more things out that'll be useful to everybody. So. All right.
Thanks a bunch.
All right. No problem. I
Appreciate
will
it.
talk to you guys
Thanks,
next
Amy.
week. Thanks.